The Serbo-Bulgarian War was a war between Serbia and Bulgaria that erupted on the 14th of November, OS, the 2nd of November, 1885 and lasted until the 28th of November, OS, the 16th of November, 1885. Final peace was signed on the 3rd of March, OS, the 19th of February, 1886 in Bucharest. As a result of the war, European powers acknowledged the act of unification of Bulgaria which happened on the 18th of September, OS, the 6th of September, 1885. Background: on the 18th of September, OS, the 6th of September, 1885, Bulgaria and the semi-autonomous Ottoman province of Eastern Rumelia declared their unification in the city of Plovdiv. Eastern Rumelia, whose population was predominantly ethnic Bulgarian, had been an artificial creation of the Berlin Congress 7 years earlier. The unification took place against the will of the great powers, including Russia. The Austro-Hungarian Empire had been expanding its influence in the Balkans and was particularly opposed. Bulgaria's western neighbor Serbia also feared this would diminish its position in the Balkans. In addition, Serbia's ruler Milan I was annoyed that Serbian pro-Russian opposition leaders like Nikola Pasak, who had stirred up the Timok rebellion, had found asylum in Bulgaria after the suppression of the rebellion by the Serbian Army. After the declaration of the unification, massive protests broke out in Greece, who feared of the creation of a greater Bulgarian state on the Balkans, calling the government to declare war on Bulgaria. Serbia offered Greece a joint military action against Bulgaria but Greece rejected. Lured by Austria-Hungary's promises for territorial gains from Bulgaria, Milan I declared war on Bulgaria on the 14th of November, OS, the 2nd of November, 1885. The military strategy relied largely on surprise. As Bulgaria expected an attack from the Ottoman Empire, it moved its troops near the borderline. In the southeast, the pretext became a minor border dispute, known as the Bregovo dispute. The river Timok, which formed part of the border between the two countries, had slightly changed its course over the years. As a result, a Serbian border guardhouse near the village of Bregovo had found itself on the Bulgarian bank of the river. After some denied requests from Bulgaria to evacuate the guardhouse, Bulgaria expelled the Serbian troops by force. As it happened, the Ottomans did not intervene and the Serbian army's advance was stopped after the Battle of Slivnica. The main body of the Bulgarian army traveled from the Ottoman border in the southeast to the Serbian border in the northwest to defend the capital, Sofia. After the defensive battles at Slivnica and Vidin, Bulgaria began an offensive which took the city of Pirot. At this point, the Austro-Hungarian Empire stepped in, threatening to join the war on Serbia's side if the Bulgarian troops did not retreat. No territorial changes were made to either country, but the Bulgarian unification was recognized by the great powers. However, the relationship of trust and friendship between Serbia and Bulgaria, built during their long common fight against Ottoman rule, suffered irreparable damage. Serbian Army. The Serbian Army's infantry weaponry stood up to the most modern standards of the time. However, the artillery was ill-equipped, still using muzzle-loading cannons of the Lahit system. Breech-loading cannons of the Debang system had been ordered and paid for, but did not arrive in Serbia until 1886. The total number of Serbian armed forces expected to take part in the military operation was about 60,000. King Milan I divided his force into two armies, the Nišava and Timok armies. The first took the main objective, i.e., to overcome the Bulgarian defences along the west border, to conquer Sofia and advance towards the Itiman Heights. It was there that the army was supposed to encounter and crush the Bulgarian forces coming from the southeast. Serbia's main advantages on paper were the better small arms and the highly educated commanders and soldiers, who had gained a serious amount of experience from the last two wars against the Ottoman Empire. However, internal Serbian problems, supplemented by King Milan's conduct of the war, nullified most of these advantages. In order to collect all the glory for the victory he considered imminent, King Milan did not call the most famous commanders of the previous wars to command the army. Instead, he took the position of army commander himself and gave most of the divisional commands to officers chosen primarily for their loyalty and not war. Records like Peter Topalovic of the Morava division, who had previously commanded the troops suppressing the militarily poorly organized Timok rebellion. Furthermore, underestimating the Bulgarian military strength and fearing mutinies for conducting such an unpopular war, he ordered the mobilization of only the first class of infantry, which meant mobilizing only about half of the available Serbian manpower. In doing so, he deprived the Serbian army of its veterans of the previous wars against the Ottoman Empire. The modern rifles, even though amongst the best in Europe at the time, still had issues of their own. They were introduced a rather short time before the outbreak of the war, so many of the soldiers were not very well trained to use them. More importantly, the theoretical capabilities of the rifle often mislead the Serbian officers, still lacking experience with it, to order volleys from distances of half a mile or more, wasting the precious ammunition for negligible results. Furthermore, the ammunition was purchased in quantities based on consumption of bullets by the previous, much older and slower-firing rifles. The situation was made worse still by the contemporary Serbian tactics emphasizing firepower, and downplaying hand-to-hand fighting, which contributed to heavy casualties in such a fight for Neskov-Biz in defense of Pirot. Condition of the Bulgarian army. Bulgaria was forced to meet the Serbian threat with two serious disadvantages. First, when the unification had been declared, Russia had withdrawn its military officers, who had until that moment commanded all larger units of Bulgaria's young army. The remaining Bulgarian officers had lower ranks and no experience in commanding units larger than platoons. Second, since the Bulgarian government had expected an attack from Turkey, the main forces of the Bulgarian army were situated along the southeastern border. In the conditions of 1885 Bulgaria, their redeployment across the country would take at least 5 to 6 days. Bulgarian advantage. As the main Bulgarian advantage was the strong patriotic spirit and morale, as well as the feeling among the men that they were fighting for a just cause. The same could not be said about the Serbs. The king had misled them in his manifest to the army, telling the Serbian soldiers that they were being sent to help the Bulgarians in their war against Turkey. This was why the Serbian soldiers were initially surprised to find that they were fighting Bulgarians instead, until they understood what was happening. Presumably, lying to his army was King Milan's only means to mobilize and command his troops without experiencing disobedience and unrest. Furthermore, while Bulgarian small arms were inferior to the Serbian, its artillery was greatly superior, boasting steel, Krupp-designed breech-loading cannons. Bulgarian strategic plan. There were two views on the Bulgarian strategy. The first, supported by Knyaz Alexander I, saw the general battle on the Itiman Heights. The drawback of this plan was that in that case, the capital Sofia had to be surrendered without battle. This could very well cause Serbia to stop the war and call in the arbitrage of the great powers. For this reason, the strategic plan that was finally selected by the Bulgarian command expected the main clash to be in the area of Slivnica. Captain Olimpipanov had an important role in this final decision. Military activities. 16 to 19 November. Knyaz Alexander I arrived on the evening of the 16th of November to find a well-prepared defensive position manned by 9 battalions, plus some 2,000 volunteers and 32 guns, commanded by Major Gutchev. The position consisted of nearly 4 kilometers of trenches and artillery redoubts on either side of the main road on a ridge in front of Slivnica city. To the right was steep mountainous terrain, whilst the left wing had the easier Viska hills towards Breznik. The Morava Division was at some distance from its objective Breznik, which lay to the south. The northern advance was bogged down along the Danube. The morning of the 17th of November came with rain and mist, but not the expected Serbian attack. By 10 in the morning, Alexander ordered 3 battalions to advance on the right. They surprised the Danube Division, who eventually rallied and pushed them back. The main Serbian attack began on the center, largely unsupported by artillery which had insufficient range. The weight of Bulgarian fire forced them back with some 1,200 casualties. A relief column led by Captain Benderev recaptured the heights on the right and forced the Danube Division back to the road. At daybreak on the 18th of November, the Serbians attacked the weaker left flank of the Bulgarian line. Just in time, 2 battalions of the Preslav Regiment arrived to shore up the position. Further attacks in the center were repulsed with heavy Serbian casualties, and Benderev captured 2 further positions in the mountains. On the 19th of November, the Serbians concentrated 2 divisions for an attack on the Bulgarian left near Karnal in an attempt to join up with the Morava Division. However, 3 battalions of Bulgarian troops led by Captain Popov from Sofia had held the Morava Division in the Viska Hills, and the flanking move failed. Alexander now ordered a counter-attack which pushed the Serbians back on both flanks, although nightfall prevented a complete collapse. 19–28 November, Slivnica was the decisive battle of the war. The Serbians fought only limited rearguard actions as they retreated, and by the 24th of November they were back in Serbia. The Timok Division in the north continued the siege of Aden until the 29th of November. The main Bulgarian army crossed the border in 2 strong divisions, supported by flanking columns, and converged on Pirot. The Serbian army dug in on the heights west of the town. On the 27th of November, the Bulgarian army flanked the right of the Serbian position, with Knyaz Alexander personally leading the final attack. The Serbians abandoned Pirot and fled to Nis. End of War and Peace Treaty. The Serbian defeat made Austria-Hungary take action. On the 28th of November, the Viennese ambassador in Belgrade, Count Kievan Hurlamech, visited the headquarters of the Bulgarian army and demanded the ceasing of military actions, threatening that otherwise the Bulgarian forces would meet Austro-Hungarian troops. The ceasefire was signed on the 28th of November, but that did not stop the Serbians from continuous unsuccessful attempts to conquer Aden, with the idea to use it in negotiations later, even after military activities had stopped on demand of their ally. On the 3rd of March 1886, the peace treaty was signed in Bucharest. According its terms, no changes were to be made along the Bulgarian-Serbian border. The war was an important step in the strengthening of Bulgaria's international position. To a large extent, the victory preserved the unification of Bulgaria. The defeat left a lasting scar on the Serbian military, previously considered undefeated by the Serbs. Ambitious reforms of the army were carried out. In culture, the Serbo-Bulgarian War forms the setting for George Bernard Shaw's 1885 play and the Man.